Have you ever noticed how some people spend years reading every self-help book they can find, binging motivational videos, filling notebooks with goals and vision boards, and yet nothing really changes? It's not that they're lazy. It's not that they don't want to change. The truth is more uncomfortable than that. They're avoiding the hard stuff, the real stuff, the kind of truths that hit you in the gut and strip away every excuse you've been hiding behind. We crave inspiration, but we fear confrontation with ourselves. See, comfort is seductive. It makes you feel safe, familiar, secure. But that comfort, it's a trap. It's the most dangerous kind of trap because it feels good while it quietly shrinks your life. You wake up, go through the motions, tell yourself you're planning for someday, but inside, you're stuck. Stoic philosophy. Yes, those ancient Roman thinkers like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, they saw this coming centuries ago. They warned us that comfort is the enemy of growth, that peace doesn't come from ease, it comes from clarity, from living aligned with truth, even when that truth is uncomfortable. So if your life feels stagnant, if you've been working on yourself for years but still feel like you're in the same place, maybe the next step isn't another book or podcast. Maybe the next step is facing what you've been avoiding. Let me ask you this. What truth are you refusing to look at? What reality have you been softening, filtering, rationalizing, just so it doesn't shake your comfort zone? Because real change, the kind that actually transforms you, doesn't start with motivation. It starts with honesty, radical, painful, freeing honesty. And no, it won't feel good at first. Truth rarely does. But once you face it, you can't unsee it. And that's a good thing. That's where freedom begins. In this video, we're not here to sugarcoat. We're not here to give you a pep talk. We're here to give you 20 of the most painful truths your mind needs to hear. Not to shame you, not to break you, but to wake you up. Because you don't need more hype, you need a mirror, and if you're brave enough to look into it, you'll find the power to finally change what matters most. You. Part 1. No one's coming to save you. Let's be honest. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, maybe someday things will just get better? Maybe the right person will come along. Maybe the perfect job will show up. Maybe, by some stroke of fate, the storm inside you will just settle. It's a comforting thought, right? That someone or something will swoop in to fix the mess, heal the pain, ignite the motivation, give you the sign you've been waiting for. But here's the truth. Most people don't want to hear. No one is coming. There's no cavalry, no chosen one, no magical right moment. There's just you, your choices, your effort, your willingness to act, even when it's hard. Now, I know that might sound harsh. We've been raised to expect someone else to lead the way. At school, we wait for instructions. At home, someone else makes the decisions. Even in the movies, we're told to wait for the mentor, the hero, the big break. But real life? Real life doesn't follow a script. There's no director yelling action. There's only you and the decision to show up anyway. The Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's not just some poetic line carved into ancient stone. That's a survival guide. You see, most people confuse responsibility with blame. They hear "it's on you" and think it means it's your fault. But here's the shift. You may not be to blame for what happened, but you are responsible for what happens next. Read that again. Because responsibility isn't punishment, it's power. Let me give you an example. Think about someone you admire, not a celebrity, not someone with a fancy title. I mean the real-life warriors, the single mom working 2 jobs to raise her kids, the man who overcame addiction and now mentors others, the friend who turned heartbreak into creative fuel and kept building, brick by brick. These people didn't get there because someone saved them. They stopped waiting and started acting. They didn't wait to feel ready. They didn't wait for the pain to pass. They just moved, one small, uncomfortable step at a time. That's how resilience is built, not in moments of ease, but in moments of choice. And yes, it's messy, it's slow, it's not Instagrammable, but it's real. There's a Stoic phrase you need to remember: the obstacle is the way. The hard thing you've been avoiding, that's not the thing stopping you. That is the way forward. Let that sink in. Because the longer you wait for life to get easier, the more power you hand away. The more you wait for a perfect moment, the further you drift from the person you could become. And here's something else people forget. You can ask for help. You can lean on others. But asking for support is not the same as waiting to be rescued. One is an act of courage, the other is quiet surrender. Epictetus, another Stoic thinker, said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." You can be in chaos and still move forward. You can feel fear and still take action. You can feel broken and still rebuild. Because here's what happens when you stop waiting for someone to save you. You stop negotiating your power. You stop needing permission. You stop shrinking, apologizing, or hoping someone finally sees your worth. You become the person you were waiting for. And there's a strange peace in that. Not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. Friedrich Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." So ask yourself, what's your why? What are you building? What future are you done postponing? Because the moment you stop waiting and start moving, that's the moment your life changes. And no, it won't be easy, but it will be yours. Part 2. Life responds to action, not emotion. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had one of those nights where your mind just won't shut off? You're lying in bed, exhausted, but your thoughts are spinning, your chest feels heavy, and every emotion you've buried during the day comes flooding back at once. You feel overwhelmed, frustrated, maybe even defeated. And look, those feelings are real. You're not weak for having them. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Life doesn't change because of what you feel. You can cry, you can vent, you can journal 10 pages of raw emotion, but unless you act, nothing actually shifts. The Stoics understood this long before we had words like overthinking and burnout. They believed in action, not because emotions don't matter, but because they're not reliable. Emotions are like weather. One day it's calm and sunny, the next, it's a thunderstorm. Would you cancel your entire life because of a passing cloud? Then why are you waiting for a perfect mood to take the first step? Let's be real. How many times have you told yourself, "I'll do it when I feel motivated. I'll start when I'm less tired. I'll speak up when I feel more confident"? And how often did that moment never come? Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Motivation doesn't come first. Action does. Think about the most disciplined people you know. Are they superhuman? Number. They just stopped waiting to feel like it. They showed up, tired, scared, uncertain, and did it anyway. And that repetition? That's what builds real confidence. Carl Jung once said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." That hits hard, doesn't it? We've all said we want to change. We want to be healthier, happier, more focused. But change doesn't come from intentions. It comes from patterns. You don't become strong by thinking about the gym. You don't find purpose by waiting for clarity. You earn those things through action, even when it's awkward, even when it's inconvenient, especially when it's inconvenient. And here's the magic. Once you act, even a little, your brain starts to follow. You create momentum. You shift the energy. You go from stuck to moving, and that alone can change everything. So, what does this look like in real life? It looks like hitting record even if your voice shakes. It looks like sending the application even if you think you're not qualified. It looks like going for that walk, making that call, writing that page, before you feel ready. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need a 5-step formula. You just need to move. Because life Life responds to what you do, not what you feel, not what you wish for, what you repeat. And this is actually good news, because it means you're not at the mercy of your emotions. You don't have to wait for the storm to pass. You can row the boat, even in the rain. You can feel fear and still act. You can feel doubt and still show up. You can feel like a mess and still move forward. That's what Stoic strength looks like. Not cold, not robotic, but grounded, clear, intentional. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good person should be. Be one." Stop waiting to feel ready. Start becoming ready through action. So here's a challenge for you. What's one thing you've been putting off because you didn't feel in the right headspace? What would happen if you did it anyway? Even a small version of it. Could be 5 minutes, could be a single phone call. But do it, not for the result, but to remind yourself you're not powerless. You're not defined by your emotions. You're defined by your choices repeated over time. Because at the end of the day, it's not the dreamers who change their lives. It's the doers. So go do. Part 3. You're not tired, you're just scattered. Let's talk about a feeling we all know too well. You get to the end of your day, completely wiped out. You're exhausted, drained, mentally foggy. But when you stop and ask yourself, wait, what did I actually do today? You can't point to anything that truly mattered. You were busy, sure. You bounced from app to app, conversation to conversation, but deep down, you weren't productive. You were just distracted. And here's the harsh truth. You're not tired from doing too much. You're tired from doing too little that matters. We live in a world that is starving our focus. Every notification, every headline, every scroll is pulling at your attention, constantly. And when your brain is being yanked in 100 directions all day long, of course you feel exhausted. It's not your body that's depleted. It's your attention. It's your presence. It's your sense of clarity. The Stoic philosopher Seneca said it perfectly. To be everywhere is to be nowhere. And isn't that exactly how most people live today? We're everywhere. Mentally scattered, emotionally scattered, spiritually scattered. No wonder we feel lost. Here's the thing. Your attention is your most valuable resource. And yet, most of us give it away like it's worthless. You check your phone before your feet hit the floor in the morning. You answer emails while eating. You scroll through noise while pretending to relax. By the time you get to the thing that actually matters, you're already burned out. And here's the trap. When we feel this kind of scattered exhaustion, we think the solution is more rest, more naps, more TV, more zoning out. But rest doesn't fix mental clutter. What you need isn't more sleep. It's more focus. You don't need more hours. You need more intention. Try this, just once today. Choose one thing that truly matters to you, one task, one moment, one conversation, and give it your full, undivided attention. No phone, no distractions, just presence. It could be something simple. Writing a page, taking a walk without your headphones, sitting down and truly listening to someone you love. And watch what happens. You'll feel more energized, not less. More clear, not more overwhelmed. That's the power of focus. That's the power of being here, not scattered. Because when you spread your energy across everything, you end up with nothing. But when you direct your energy into one thing, you create movement. You build momentum. We often confuse stimulation with aliveness. We think being constantly occupied means we're living. But what we're really doing is leaking. Leaking energy. Leaking time. Leaking purpose. Let me ask you, what's been draining you lately? Not because it's hard, but because it's meaningless. What noise have you allowed into your life that doesn't align with the person you want to become? The truth is, discipline of the mind is a forgotten practice in modern life. The Stoics believed in it deeply, not as control, but as clarity. Not as rigidity, but as intention. Most of us are mentally flabby. We've trained our brains to seek the next thing every 10 seconds. We avoid silence like it's dangerous. But silence is where the truth shows up. Stillness is where your best ideas live. So if you want to feel less tired, start here. Unplug from the noise. Reclaim your focus. Protect your attention like it's sacred, because it is. That doesn't mean becoming a monk. It means becoming awake. Turn off what distracts you. Limit what steals your clarity. And retrain your mind to stay with one thing all the way through. Because at the end of the day, you're not burned out from doing too much. You're burned out from doing too little that means something. So, simplify. Slow down. Focus deeply. And you'll discover energy you thought you'd lost. You're not tired. You're just scattered. Bring yourself back. And watch your life begin to make sense again. Part 4. Time is the only real currency. Let's be real. You can lose money and earn it back. You can lose your health and, with work, regain it. You can even lose relationships and build new ones. But there's one thing you will never, ever get back: time. And yet, it's the thing we waste the most. We trade it for distractions. We give it to people who don't value it. We pour it into things that don't feed us, scrolling, worrying, trying to please everyone. Think about this. Every day you are given 86,400 seconds. That's your daily deposit. And unlike money in the bank, what you don't use wisely, it disappears at midnight. No refunds, no rollover, no, I'll save it for later. If someone handed you $86,400 every morning and said, spend it however you want, but anything you waste is gone forever, you'd probably think very carefully about where that money goes. So why don't we do that with our time? Maybe it's because we've been tricked into thinking time is abundant, infinite, guaranteed. But it's not. It's fragile, it's fleeting, and it's the most honest currency of your life. The Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius once said, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." Not to scare you, but to wake you up, to remind you this is not a rehearsal. This is the one life you get. So let me ask you, how are you spending it? Are you trading hours for meaningless scrolling? Are you saying yes to obligations that drain you just to avoid uncomfortable conversations? Are you constantly too busy for the things you say actually matter? Here's the hard truth. When you say you don't have time, what you usually mean is, it's not a priority. And that's okay, but own it. Don't lie to yourself about being overwhelmed when you've spent 2 hours rewatching a show you've already seen. Time doesn't lie. It quietly reveals your real values, not the ones you talk about, but the ones you live by. And maybe that realization stings a little, but it can also be a turning point. Because the good news is this: you don't have to overhaul your whole life overnight. You just need to start being intentional, 1 hour at a time. Even reclaiming 30 minutes a day, spent in silence, focused work, movement, meaningful connection, can reshape your future. That's not a time issue, that's a clarity issue. We think productivity is about doing more, but true productivity is about doing what matters and letting go of what doesn't. Start treating time like the sacred, non-renewable asset it is. Build boundaries around it. Protect your mornings. Guard your evenings. Carve out space for stillness, not just because it feels good, but because it sharpens your direction. And here's something most people miss. Time feels different based on how you use it. 10 minutes of scrolling feels like nothing, but 10 minutes of reflection, of real conversation, of movement, it stretches. It leaves a mark. It gives weight to your day. Because your brain doesn't remember time. It remembers meaning. So if your life feels like it's rushing by, if every day blurs into the next, maybe it's not because time is speeding up. Maybe it's because your days are missing depth. The Stoics didn't just talk about time in theory. They practiced it. They wrote. They reflected. They asked the hard questions. Not because they were obsessed with death, but because they were obsessed with living fully. So what about you? What are you pretending is urgent when it's not? What are you constantly too busy to do even though your soul is craving it? What would shift in your life if you started treating time like the rare currency it truly is? Because once it's gone, it's gone. And the only thing more painful than wasted time is realizing you were the one who gave it away. So protect it. Spend it like it matters, because it does. Part 5. Growth feels like discomfort. Let's get one thing straight. You cannot grow and stay comfortable at the same time. I know that's not what most people want to hear. We live in a world that sells us comfort as success. Make it easy. Take the shortcut. Find balance. But real, lasting transformation? It doesn't come wrapped in comfort. It shows up wrapped in resistance, challenge, and yes, discomfort. Think about this. When you go to the gym and lift weights, what happens? Your muscles burn, they ache, they even tear, just a little. And that pain, that's the exact process of growth. You don't get stronger by staying still. You get stronger by moving through the strain. It's the same with your mind, with your habits, with your identity. Growth is never a gentle invitation. It's a nudge, a push, sometimes even a shove into unfamiliar territory. And that unfamiliarity? That's not something to avoid. That's where the change lives. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "Difficulties show what men are." Let that sink in. It's easy to be calm when life is smooth. It's easy to feel confident when nothing is at stake. But who are you when things get messy? Who are you when things go wrong, when plans fall apart, when nothing feels in control? That's where your character is forged. Discomfort isn't punishment. It's feedback. It's your body and mind saying, "We're entering new territory. This is where you build the new version of you." So many people run from that feeling, the awkwardness, the fear, the tension. But here's the truth. Every time you avoid discomfort, you reinforce self-doubt. Every time you face it, you build confidence. Confidence doesn't come from positive affirmations. It comes from evidence, from moments where you did the hard thing, showed up anyway, and proved to yourself, "I can handle this." Think about something in your life you're proud of. I guarantee it wasn't easy. It probably involved pain, risk, uncertainty. But because you moved through that discomfort, you grew. That's what growth feels like. It's not a dopamine rush. It's not always inspiring. Sometimes it feels like fatigue, confusion, even failure. But those feelings, they're signs you're evolving. They're not signs to stop. They're signs to keep going. Let's be real. Comfort zones are not bad, but they are limited. And staying in one too long doesn't feel like peace. It starts to feel like boredom, like stuckness, like your life is shrinking. You were not built to stay the same. You were built to adapt, to stretch, to become. That's not just biology, it's philosophy. The Stoics didn't just teach resilience, they trained for it. They sought out challenge. They embraced discomfort as a spiritual discipline. Why? Because they knew comfort doesn't reveal who you are. Struggle does. So here's the question. What discomfort have you been avoiding lately? What truth have you been softening to protect your ego? What opportunity for growth have you labeled as too hard just because it's unfamiliar? Because here's the paradox. The more willing you are to feel uncomfortable, the faster you grow. And the more you seek comfort, the more fragile you become. You don't need to chase pain, but you do need to stop running from the resistance that's required for growth. So next time you feel that discomfort rising, pause, take a breath. And instead of asking, "How do I make this easier?" ask, "What is this shaping in me?" Because growth doesn't feel like motivation. It feels like sweat, like effort, like silence after the struggle. It feels like becoming someone new, one uncomfortable step at a time. Part 6. You will outgrow some people. Let's talk about something no one really prepares you for. Growth is lonely. Not all the time, but often enough to feel it. Because as you evolve, you start to notice something. Certain friendships feel heavier. Certain environments feel smaller. Certain habits no longer fit. And suddenly, you're stuck between who you've been and who you're becoming. It's a strange tension, because you still care about those people, those places, those patterns. But deep down, something whispers, this isn't right anymore. And that whisper, that's not betrayal. It's evolution. You're not leaving people behind because you think you're better. You're moving forward because you're becoming different. The Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius said, "Life is change. Growth is optional. Choose wisely." Let that sink in. Everything in nature changes. The seasons, the tides, the cells in your body. So why do we expect friendships, routines, and identities to stay exactly the same forever? Sometimes the most painful part of growth isn't the new habits or new direction. It's the realization that not everyone will come with you. And that's okay. Because not everyone is meant to walk your whole path. Some people are here for a season, a lesson, a moment. And when that season ends, clinging doesn't preserve the relationship. It poisons it. Let me be clear. Outgrowing someone doesn't mean you've stopped loving them. It means you've started loving yourself enough to honor your growth. And that's hard. Especially when guilt creeps in. Especially when you worry about how they'll feel. But ask yourself, are you shrinking just to keep others comfortable? Are you stalling your evolution because someone else prefers the old version of you? That's not kindness. That's self-abandonment. You can be loyal and growing. You can be compassionate and clear on your boundaries. You can wish someone well and still walk your own path. Here's something most people don't realize. The more you grow, the more intentional your environment needs to become. You start to feel drained by gossip, by small talk, by low standards. Not because you're arrogant, but because your spirit is craving depth. You want real conversations, real accountability. People who don't just accept your potential, but challenge it. Because here's the truth. The right environment doesn't just support your growth, it accelerates it. And the wrong one, it keeps you stuck, quietly, slowly, invisibly. So maybe it's time to ask, what or who are you holding on to out of history, not alignment? What have you outgrown, but you're afraid to admit? It might be a friendship that's run its course, a job that's safe but soul-crushing, a mindset that once served you, but now limits you. And yes, it will be uncomfortable. Change always is. But staying somewhere you no longer belong is also painful, just slower and more silent. Give yourself permission to outgrow what no longer fits, not with bitterness, not with drama, but with grace. You're not too much. You're just moving forward. You're not selfish. You're just choosing growth. You're not disloyal. You're just honoring your evolution. And here's the beautiful part. When you stop clinging to what no longer fits, you create space for what does. New connections, new energy, new levels of clarity, purpose, and joy. So don't apologize for changing. Don't apologize for needing more. Don't apologize for becoming someone new. Because that's the point. That's what life is supposed to do to you. You're not here to stay the same. You're here to become. And if that means walking away from what no longer serves you, walk. Not in anger, not in guilt, but in quiet confidence that says, I love who I was, I'm proud of who I am, and I'm excited about who I'm becoming. Part 7. Weak boundaries equals chaotic life. Let's get real. If your life feels overwhelming, scattered, or chaotic, there's a high chance it's not because you're doing too much. It's because you're saying yes to the wrong things, and no to yourself. Weak boundaries create strong chaos. That's the truth nobody tells you. You can have a detailed to-do list, a vision board, a 5-year plan. But if you don't know how to protect your energy, your time, and your values, none of that matters. Because without boundaries, Other people will write your story for you. Their drama becomes your stress. Their needs become your obligations. Their guilt becomes your compass. You become reactive, constantly pulled in every direction except the one you chose. Let's make something clear. Boundaries are not selfish. They are an act of self-respect. You are not a bad person for saying no. You are not cold, distant, or difficult for choosing peace over pressure. In fact, one of the clearest signs that you're growing is when people who once benefited from your lack of boundaries start getting uncomfortable. They might say, "You've changed. You're not as available as before. You're being difficult." And the answer is, yes, you have changed. You're no longer willing to abandon yourself just to make others comfortable. And that's growth. Here's the reality. People who truly respect you will respect your boundaries. People who don't were never really honoring you. They were honoring your compliance. So ask yourself, where in your life are you saying yes out of guilt, not alignment? What are you constantly tolerating just to avoid conflict? Because every time you ignore that small voice inside that says, "This doesn't feel right," you chip away at your self-worth. You don't need to justify your no. You don't need a PowerPoint presentation to explain your limits. No is a complete sentence. You don't owe access to everyone. Not to coworkers, not to family, not to people who once knew a past version of you. Your peace is sacred. Your attention is valuable. Your time is limited. So why do we hand it out so freely to people, conversations, and commitments that don't serve us? Maybe it's because we were taught that kindness means always being available, that love means self-sacrifice, that saying no makes you rude or difficult. But here's the truth. Kindness without boundaries becomes resentment. Love without self-respect becomes codependency. You were not born to be everyone's solution. You were not created to carry emotional burdens that don't belong to you. You are allowed to say, "I don't have the capacity for this right now. I'm not available for that kind of energy. I'm choosing peace over pleasing." The Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't preach emotional detachment. They practiced internal control. They knew that if you let the external world dictate your internal state, you'll always be in chaos. So, draw the line, not in anger, not in revenge, but in clarity. Clarity that says, "This is who I am. This is what I allow. This is how I honor myself." You don't need everyone to like you. You need to like yourself when you look in the mirror. And when you start living with strong boundaries, something shifts. You gain time, you gain energy, you gain trust in yourself. So if you're feeling stretched thin, if your days are filled with noise, pressure, or resentment, don't ask, "How do I get more done?" Ask, "Where do I need stronger boundaries?" Because a peaceful life isn't built through perfection. It's built through protection of your values, your energy, your path. Part 8. You are what you repeatedly do. Let's break down one of the biggest myths in personal growth. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Most people think their success depends on having big dreams, big motivation, or big breakthrough moments. But here's the truth. Your life today is a reflection of your habits, not your intentions, not your hopes, not your plans, just your daily, boring, consistent actions. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." In other words, decide who you want to become, and then act like it. Not someday, not when you feel ready. Today, repeatedly. Because you are not your goals, you are your standards, and standards are built in the quiet choices you make every single day. Do you hit snooze for the 5th time? Or do you get up because you said you would? Do you scroll for 30 minutes before bed? Or do you spend that time reflecting, planning, or reading? Do you keep promises to yourself, or break them when no one's watching? It's not about being perfect, it's about being consistent. Let me ask you this. If someone watched a recording of your last 7 days, No audio, just your actions. What would they say you value? Because actions are louder than declarations. What you do is who you are becoming. And no, you don't need to overhaul your life overnight. That's not sustainable. But one small habit, done daily, changes everything. Drink a glass of water first thing in the morning. Write for 5 minutes a day. Stretch. Plan your day. Speak kindly to yourself. These sound simple, almost too simple. But they're powerful because they create momentum. And momentum beats motivation every time. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes like the weather. But discipline, that's a skill. That's a system. And the good news is, you can build it. Here's something most people never realize. Every habit is a vote for the person you want to become. When you choose discipline over distraction, even once, you cast a vote for the future you. When you show up for yourself day after day, your identity starts to shift. You stop saying, I want to be someone who, and you start saying, I am someone who. That shift in identity is where real change begins. But here's the catch. You have to earn it. And you earn it through repetition, through action, through doing the thing, even when it's boring, inconvenient, or uncomfortable. That's where the gold is. And it's okay to start small. In fact, it's better to start small. Because small habits are sustainable. And what's sustainable is what transforms you. So stop waiting for the perfect plan. Stop waiting to feel ready. You don't need more information. You need implementation. Choose one habit, just one. Do it every day for a week, then 2 weeks, then a month. Watch what happens. Watch how you start to trust yourself again. Watch how your energy shifts. Watch how those small choices start compounding into something bigger than you imagined. You don't need to chase intensity. You need to master consistency. Because in the end, the life you want, it's not built in a weekend seminar. It's not found in a single breakthrough. It's crafted slowly and steadily in the quiet repetition of your daily habits. So decide today, who do you want to become? Then go prove it with what you do next, and tomorrow, and the day after that. Because you are not what you say you'll do. You are what you repeatedly do. Part 9. Most people aren't thinking about you as much as you think. Let me ask you something. How many times have you not done something, shared an idea, posted a photo, spoke up in a meeting, because you were afraid of what they would think? They'll think I'm weird. They'll notice I messed up. They'll judge me. But here's the truth. They're not thinking about you that much. Honestly, they're too busy thinking about themselves. Psychologists call this the spotlight effect. It's the illusion that there's a giant spotlight on you, that everyone sees your flaws, your mistakes, your awkward moments. But the reality, everyone's walking around under their own spotlight. We're all the main characters in our own mental movies. And in everyone else's movie, you're probably a background actor, or not in the scene at all. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, captured this perfectly over 2,000 years ago. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. You think people are criticizing your outfit, your voice, your stumble, your post, but they're not. Because they're too busy worrying about their outfit, their voice, their stumble, their post. And even if they do notice something about you, they forget it within minutes. So ask yourself, how much of your life are you holding back because of people who aren't even paying attention? That's not freedom. That's a prison built from your own imagination. But here's the good news. Once you realize this, once you accept that most people aren't watching your every move, you're free. Free to speak, free to create, free to be awkward, free to be yourself. Because when you stop performing for an imaginary audience, you start connecting with real people. And people are drawn to authenticity, not perfection, not polish, but the courage to be real. You know those moments when someone stumbles through a story, laughs at themselves, and just keeps going? That's not embarrassing. That's magnetic. We're not wired to love flawless people. We're wired to love honest people. So stop rehearsing every sentence. Stop overanalyzing every interaction. Stop living like there's a spotlight on your every move. Because there's not. Live like you've got nothing to prove. Because you don't. The world doesn't need another filtered version of you. It needs you, as you are. And yes, some people will judge. Some people will talk. That's life. That's humans. But their opinions, they don't pay your bills. They don't heal your heart. They don't walk in your shoes. So why let them hold the pen to your story? Take back the pen. Write freely. Live boldly. Not for applause, not for validation, but for you. Because when you finally stop worrying about what everyone thinks, you start becoming someone worth remembering. Part 10. You become what you consume. Let's talk about something most people ignore. Your mind is a sponge. It soaks up everything around you, consciously or not. Every headline you scroll past, every TikTok you let autoplay, every argument you overhear, every comment, lyric, image, podcast, post. It's all shaping you. We like to think we're in control, that we make independent choices, but the truth is, you become what you repeatedly consume. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, said it best. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. What color are your thoughts? Are they clear or cloudy with comparison, outrage, and distraction? Are they grounded in clarity and purpose? Or are they echoing the chaos of the latest trends, the loudest voices, and the most viral nonsense? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your mental state is not just a product of your choices, it's a product of your inputs. Garbage in, garbage out. You can't watch 3 hours of mindless drama, scroll through negativity, and listen to gossip, then wonder why you feel anxious, unmotivated, or disconnected. It's not just entertainment. It's not just a quick break. It's programming. You are programming your nervous system, your worldview, your emotional baseline, every single day. And just like junk food wrecks your body, mental junk food poisons your clarity. Now, this doesn't mean you need to live in a cave and meditate 12 hours a day. This isn't about being perfect. But it is about being intentional. Ask yourself, if your mind is a garden, what are you planting? And what are you allowing to grow wild? Are you feeding your focus or feeding your fear? Are you seeking truth or just noise that confirms your biases? Even silence. Yes, even silence can be one of the most powerful forms of nourishment. When's the last time you sat with your thoughts, without distraction, no phone, no music, no podcast in the background, just you and your breath and your inner voice? At first, it might feel uncomfortable, even boring, but that's not a problem. That's the signal. That silence is where you hear your real thoughts, your unfiltered truth. In a world that's constantly screaming for your attention, protecting your mental space is an act of rebellion. Curate your inputs like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. That doesn't mean avoiding reality. It means consuming with awareness. Instead of the endless scroll, choose one powerful book. Instead of reactive news, choose timeless wisdom. Instead of chasing opinions, sit with your own. And instead of filling every moment with noise, leave space, leave room for clarity to speak. Because clarity doesn't shout, it whispers. And if your life is too loud, you'll never hear it. You want to feel better? You want to think more clearly? You want to stop feeling like your brain is on fire all the time? Then be ruthless about what you let in. Your time is limited. Your energy is sacred. Your attention is currency. Don't spend it on things that bankrupt your peace. So here's the challenge. This week, cut your junk input in half. Unfollow 3 accounts that drain you. Replace 1 hour of passive scrolling with 1 podcast, 1 walk, or even 1 moment of silence. You'll feel the difference. You'll see the difference. Because the fastest way to upgrade your life is to upgrade your inputs. You are what you consume, so choose wisely. Part 11. Motivation is a liar. Let's be honest. How many times have you said to yourself, I just need to feel motivated. I'll start when I'm in the mood. I know what to do. I'm just not feeling it right now. Sound familiar? Now here's the truth no one wants to hear. Motivation is a liar. It's unreliable. It's inconsistent. It shows up late, and it leaves early. And yet, we keep waiting for it, like it's some magical spark that'll suddenly make everything easy. But guess what? The people who succeed in life, they're not the ones who wait for motivation. They're the ones who move without it. They show up on the days they don't feel like it. They do the work even when their energy is low, their mood is off, and the couch looks way too inviting. Why? Because they know something most people never learn. Discipline will take you places motivation never could. Motivation is a feeling. Discipline is a decision. Motivation whispers, maybe tomorrow. Discipline says, we're doing it now. Think about it. When was the last time you felt super motivated before going to the gym? Not often, right? But how did you feel after you went? Lighter, sharper, proud. Because action creates motivation, not the other way around. You move first. The energy comes second. You act, and then the mindset follows. We've been taught to think we need to feel ready before we start. But real progress doesn't care about how you feel. It cares about what you do, consistently. Want to know a secret? Most of the people you admire, the entrepreneurs, the athletes, the artists, the writers, they're not motivated every day. They're disciplined. They've built systems, they've built routines, they've built habits that work, even when they don't want to. That's the difference between wishing for success and earning it. Here's a powerful shift. Stop asking, do I feel like it? Start asking, what would the best version of me do right now? That question changes everything. Because you don't need another podcast. You don't need another vision board. You need to keep the promises you make to yourself, especially when it's hard. That's where confidence is built. That's where results are created. That's where transformation happens. It's in those quiet, unseen moments when no one's clapping, but you still choose to show up. Because if you only work when it's convenient, you'll never be consistent. And if you're not consistent, you'll never be excellent. So stop waiting for motivation to knock on your door. It's not coming. But you can build something better. Build the habit of showing up. Build the muscle of doing hard things. Build the mindset that says, I do it because I said I would. That's how goals become reality. Remember, motivation is a feeling. Discipline is a skill. And skills get stronger the more you use them. So next time you hear that little voice say, I'm not in the mood, smile and do it anyway, because that's not the moment to wait. That's the moment to win. Part 12. You don't need to control everything. Let's be real. How much of your day is spent trying to control things that are completely out of your hands? Other people's opinions, traffic, timing, outcomes, how someone responds, whether they text back, whether the plan goes right. We obsess, we stress, we overthink. Because deep down, we believe that if we just tried a little harder, pushed a little more, planned a little tighter, maybe we could keep everything in place. But here's the truth most of us avoid. Control is an illusion. And the more you chase it, the more peace you lose. Stoic philosopher Epictetus said it best over 2,000 years ago. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. That one sentence can change your life. Read it again. Let it sink in. There are only two categories: what you control, what you don't. And when you waste energy trying to force what's not yours to carry, like someone's mood, someone's opinion, or the direction of the wind, you're not being powerful. You're being drained. Look, it's human to want certainty. It's human to want things to go your way. But peace, real, lasting peace, doesn't come from control. It comes from clarity, from knowing where your responsibility ends and where surrender begins. Let me give you an example. You apply for a job. You prepare, you show up on time, you do your best in the interview. That's your lane. That's your circle of control. But whether they hire you, that's out of your hands. That's their call. You stressing about it, refreshing your inbox every 15 minutes, replaying your answers in your head over and over. It won't change the result, but it will steal your energy, your presence, your peace. So what can you do? Focus on your response. Focus on your values. Focus on your preparation, your habits, your attitude. Because your power isn't in controlling everything. Your power is in how you respond when you can't. The Stoics believed that the only true freedom is inner freedom, the ability to remain steady even when life is not. And let's be honest, life will never go exactly to plan. People will change, things will break, surprises will come. If you tie your happiness to things going right, you'll always be a prisoner of your circumstances. But if you anchor your peace in your choices, your perspective, your discipline, then you win, no matter what happens. Letting go isn't weakness. It's not giving up. It's wisdom. It's choosing to live instead of trying to micromanage every detail of life. It's saying, this is not mine to control, and that's okay. So here's a thought to carry with you. The storm might rage around you. But your mind? Your mind can stay calm. The people around you might change, but your principles? They stay rooted. You don't have to control everything to be okay. You just have to control yourself. And that, ironically, is the kind of power that gives you the most peace. Part 13. You teach people how to treat you. Let's get something straight. People don't treat you based on what's fair. They treat you based on what you allow. Let that sink in. You're not just living your life. You're teaching people every single day. Through your words, your reactions, your silence. You're teaching them what's okay and what's not. When you let that friend keep canceling on you last minute, when you let that coworker interrupt you in meetings, when you laugh off a joke that actually cut deep, you're not just being chill or easygoing. You're setting a standard. You're teaching them this is acceptable. But here's the catch. If you tolerate disrespect, you invite more of it. Why? Because people push to see what they can get away with, not always out of malice, sometimes just out of habit. But every time you excuse it, overlook it, or swallow it, you send the message, this is how I expect to be treated. And slowly, without realizing it, you train the world to ignore your needs. Now let's be clear, setting boundaries is not rude, it's not dramatic, it's not overreacting, it's self-respect in action. A boundary isn't a wall, it's a door with a lock. It doesn't shut everyone out, it simply says, only those who respect me get access. And you don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to justify, over-explain, or feel guilty. Sometimes the most powerful sentence is, no. Just that. No extra words, no nervous laughter, no apology attached. Because your time, your energy, your peace of mind, they matter. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, put it perfectly. You can't control how others act, but you can decide who gets a seat at your table. That's not harsh. That's wisdom. Look, you don't have to cut people off left and right, but you do have to pay attention. Who drains you? Who disrespects your time? Who makes you feel small when you share something important? And most importantly, who are you allowing to do that? It's easy to blame them. Harder to take responsibility for the standards you've set. But that's where the real power lives. You don't need everyone to like you. You don't need to be the nice guy or the cool girl. You need to be someone who honors themselves first. Because when you do that, the right people rise to meet you, and the wrong ones fade away. And trust me, peace doesn't come from pleasing everyone. It comes from protecting your space. So here's the question. What are you teaching people today? With your silence, with your yeses, with your forgiveness of things you haven't really healed from? Because you are always teaching. And it's never too late to change the lesson. Start showing people how to treat you by how you treat yourself. Part 14. Advice reveals more about the giver than the truth. Have you ever shared a dream with someone, only to be hit with a heavy dose of doubt? You should be more realistic. That's too risky. People like us don't do things like that. And for a moment, you wonder, maybe they're right. But what if I told you this? Advice often says more about the person giving it than it does about your future. People speak from their lens, their fears, their limitations, their past failures. They might mean well. They might truly want to protect you. But protection isn't always progress. And fear, especially when disguised as concern, is contagious. Here's the truth. Just because someone can't see what's possible doesn't mean you can't achieve it. Epictetus, one of the most grounded voices in Stoic philosophy, once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do." That's the order, not ask everyone what they think, not take a poll and see who approves. It starts with you. You decide who you are, and then you build that version of yourself piece by piece. So next time someone gives you advice, pause and ask, is this advice based on courage or fear, growth or protection, their life or mine? Because not all advice is equal. If someone has never built what you want to build, if they've never taken a risk, followed a dream, or stepped outside the box, their advice may come from love, but it might lead you nowhere. And here's the kicker. Some people give advice because your courage reminds them of their fear. You wanting more makes them uncomfortable with their choice to settle. So instead of saying, "Wow, go for it," they say, "Slow down, be careful. That's too much." It's not your job to make others comfortable with your potential. It's your job to honor it. That doesn't mean you ignore every voice but your own. Wisdom is real. Mentorship matters. But choose your filters wisely. If the advice makes you shrink, doubt, or feel smaller, it's not for you. If it challenges you but pulls you forward, it might be uncomfortable. But that's a sign it's worth listening to. So here's your new mantra. Just because it's loud doesn't mean it's true. The world is full of voices, but only one voice knows your path, and that's the one inside you. When in doubt, come back to Epictetus. Say who you want to be, then take the steps to become it. Quietly, boldly, unapologetically. Part 15. Overthinking is procrastination in disguise. Have you ever caught yourself stuck in your own mind? You've got a decision to make, a step to take, a project to start. And what do? You think, then rethink, then overthink. You make pros and cons lists. You ask 5 friends. You research until 2 a.m. And still, you haven't moved. Let me say it clearly. Overthinking is not preparation. It's procrastination in disguise. It gives you the illusion of progress, while keeping you exactly where you are. We often think, if we just think a little more, clarity will come. But clarity doesn't show up before action. It comes because of action. Imagine standing at the edge of a foggy path. You squint, you stress, you analyze the mist. But the only way to see what's ahead is to take a step into it. One step, then another. And the path begins to reveal itself. That's how life works. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, nailed it when he said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." The pain we feel isn't from doing the wrong thing. It's from doing nothing while imagining every possible wrong thing. Your brain is a master at building scary movies. What if I fail? What if they judge me? What if I'm not ready? But here's the truth. You don't need the whole staircase. You just need the first step. That first awkward conversation. That first email. That first imperfect attempt. Action cures fear. Action reveals truth. Action builds momentum. It's not about being reckless or diving in without thought. It's about realizing that thinking has a limit, and action is where transformation begins. So ask yourself, what decision am I sitting on right now? What am I delaying under the mask of, I just need to be sure? What's one small action I can take today? It doesn't have to be big. You don't have to quit your job or move to a new country. Maybe it's sending a message, signing up for a class, blocking 30 minutes on your calendar to start. Not perfect, just start. The antidote to overthinking isn't more thought. It's motion. Even if it's messy. Even if you don't feel ready. Because no amount of thinking will build the life you want. Only action will. So go. Move. Take that one step. Then let clarity catch up. Part 16. You can't heal in the same place that broke you. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is not to stay and endure, but to walk away. Not every battle is won by holding on. Sometimes, peace begins the moment you choose to let go. Of a place, a relationship, a routine, a space that keeps reopening the very wounds you're trying to heal. See, healing isn't just about time, it's also about environment. You can't recover from emotional pain while still surrounded by the very things that caused it. Imagine trying to quit sugar while living in a candy store. You might have the willpower, for a while. But every day you're tempted, poked, triggered. Eventually, you break. The same thing happens with toxic spaces, places that constantly remind you of who you used to be, people who keep pulling you back into old habits, old versions of yourself. Maybe they don't even mean to. Maybe they love you. But the truth is, some environments are simply not built to support your growth. They keep you in survival mode, not healing mode. Stoic philosopher Epictetus said it clearly. Choose to be with those who lift you higher. That's not selfish. That's survival. That's wisdom. And Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, yet deeply human, once said, "The obstacle is the way." But sometimes, the obstacle is the place itself. If the soil is poisoned, no matter how good the seed is, it won't grow. And you, my friend, are that seed. Healing needs space, silence, support. And sometimes, the loudest kind of courage is the quiet decision to move on. So let me ask you, what space are you trying to heal in, even though it's still hurting you? What relationship are you trying to fix when it's only fixing you in place? What environment have you convinced yourself to tolerate at the cost of your peace? You don't need permission to protect your soul. You don't need approval to walk away from what drains you. And you certainly don't need to prove your worth by staying in pain. Growth is not betrayal, it's alignment. Leaving is not weakness, it's wisdom. If something inside you knows you've outgrown a place, listen. You were not born to remain stuck. You were born to rise. And sometimes, the only way to heal is to leave the battlefield behind and choose a different path. One where peace, clarity, and true strength finally begin. Part 17. You're not tired. You're avoiding yourself. Ever feel like you're tired all the time, but you don't even know why? You get enough sleep. You eat okay. You go to work. You check the boxes. But deep down, there's this fog. This fatigue that isn't physical. It's soul deep. You're not lazy. You're not broken. But maybe, just maybe, you're not being honest with yourself. You're not tired. You're avoiding yourself. See, there's a kind of exhaustion that no nap can fix. It's the kind that comes from living out of alignment with who you really are. You might be busy, so busy you barely stop to breathe. But busyness isn't the same as purpose, and distraction isn't the same as direction. Sometimes we fill our lives with noise, tasks, to-do lists, not because we're driven, but because we're scared of silence. Because in silence, we might have to face the truth. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, It will direct your life, and you will call it fate. That's powerful. So let me ask you something. Are you tired? Or are you avoiding a hard truth? Are you drained? Or are you disconnected from your values? Are you lost? Or are you just afraid to look in the mirror? Sometimes the fatigue we feel isn't about energy. It's about identity. It's what happens when you betray your own truth day after day, moment after moment. You say yes when you mean no. You stay quiet when your soul wants to speak. You follow a path someone else picked for you because it feels safer than facing the unknown. But here's the truth. No amount of caffeine can fix a life that's out of alignment. So how do you fix it? You stop. You sit with yourself. You ask the hard questions. What do I actually want? What am I pretending not to know? What part of me have I been ignoring just to keep the peace? And then you listen, not to the noise, not to the fear, but to that quiet voice inside you that's been trying to get your attention for years. Because the antidote to exhaustion isn't always rest. Sometimes it's honesty. When you stop running from yourself, you stop running in circles. When you realign with your core values, everything starts to click. Your energy comes back. Your clarity returns. Your passion reignites. You don't need a vacation. You need a reunion with the most authentic version of you. So here's the real question. Are you willing to stop being busy and start being honest? Because that's where the healing begins. That's where life becomes real again. Part 18. Your reaction matters more than what happens. Life throws punches. That's not a maybe. That's a guarantee. You'll get disappointed. You'll be misunderstood. You'll lose things you love and face things you fear. But here's the Stoic truth. It's not the event itself that defines your life. It's how you respond to it. Let that sink in for a second. We live in a world obsessed with control. Control your job, your partner, your schedule, your future. But no matter how hard you try, life will still surprise you. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, said it best. People are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them. It's not the rain that ruins your day. It's your belief that it shouldn't be raining. It's not the traffic that causes stress. It's your resistance to being still. In other words, reality is neutral. We're the ones who assign meaning. We decide whether something is a curse or a challenge, a burden or a lesson. So here's the question that changes everything. What if the obstacle isn't the problem? What if your reaction is? Imagine two people lose their jobs. One spirals into fear and self-pity. The other sees it as a wake-up call, a push to finally pursue something more aligned. Same event, different response, radically different outcomes. That's power. And that power lives inside you, not outside. Most people try to fix the world. The Stoic fixes their mindset. Because when you master your response, you become unshakable. Think about it. When someone insults you, you can choose not to take offense. When a plan falls apart, you can adapt instead of panic. When life pushes, you can pause, breathe, and respond with intention, not reaction. That's emotional intelligence. That's self-mastery. That's real freedom. You don't need to control everything. You just need to control yourself. And here's the beautiful part. This skill is trainable. You can build mental muscle. You can pause before reacting. You can question your assumptions. You can ask, is this worth my peace? Because here's the truth most people never realize. Your peace is more valuable than your pride. Your inner state is more powerful than outer chaos. So the next time something goes wrong, don't ask, why me? Ask, what now? Don't say, this ruined everything. Say, how can I use this? Let life do what it does. Your only job is to choose your response wisely, because your reaction, not the situation, writes the story of your life. Part 19. Pain is not the enemy, it's the teacher. Most people spend their whole lives running from pain. They numb it, ignore it, resent it, hoping one day it'll just disappear. But what if pain isn't here to punish you? What if pain is here to teach you? In Stoicism, pain is not the enemy. It's a mentor, a force that strips away the noise, the ego, the illusion. It shows you what's real. It forces growth. Let me ask you something. Think about the most painful season of your life. A breakup, a betrayal, the loss of someone you loved, the collapse of something you thought was permanent. At the time, it may have felt unbearable, but now, with distance, didn't it change you? Didn't it reveal your strength? Didn't it shape your values, shift your priorities, sharpen your purpose? Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That's not just poetic, it's practical. The obstacle is the path, the hardship is the invitation, the pain is the process. We don't evolve in comfort, we evolve in challenge. No one gets stronger lifting pillows, they lift weight, and emotional weight works the same way. Pain reveals what you truly care about. It exposes your limits and invites you to stretch them. It humbles you and forces you to look inward. You see, suffering only becomes destructive when we resist it, when we label it as wrong, unfair, or shouldn't be happening. But when we lean in, with curiosity instead of fear, pain becomes a portal to deeper wisdom, to empathy, to clarity, to reinvention. Think of a forest fire. Yes, it's destructive, but in its aftermath, the soil is richer. New growth is more vibrant. Nature doesn't run from the burn, it uses it. You can too. This isn't about glorifying suffering. It's about reclaiming power within suffering. It's about understanding that adversity doesn't break you, it reveals you. Some of the wisest, kindest, strongest people you'll ever meet have walked through unimaginable pain. And somehow they didn't become bitter. They became better. Not because they enjoyed the pain, but because they learned from it. Here's the Stoic challenge. Don't just ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Ask, "What is this teaching me?" Don't say, "I wish this never happened." Say, "Because this happened, I will never be the same." Pain has shaped empires, philosophies, art, and resilience. It shaped Epictetus, who was born a slave. It shaped Nelson Mandela, who spent decades in prison before leading his country. It shapes you right now, even when you don't realize it. So the next time pain knocks on your door, don't slam it shut. Open it. Sit with it. Ask it what it came to teach you. Because pain, when faced, doesn't just wound, it awakens. Part 20. True freedom is radical responsibility. We often hear freedom described as the ability to do whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want. But let me ask you something. Has that ever actually made you feel free? You skip the gym because you don't feel like it. You scroll mindlessly instead of doing the work. You avoid the hard conversation because it's uncomfortable. And yet, you're stuck. You're not free. You're trapped. Trapped in patterns, impulses, and distractions you chose but didn't control. That's the paradox of modern freedom. We've confused indulgence with liberation, but real freedom, the kind that gives you peace, purpose, and power, doesn't come from escaping responsibility. It comes from embracing it. The Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't believe in blaming the world, other people, or even fate. They believed in owning their lives, fully. Even in chains, they saw a kind of freedom that many people with options never touch. Because here's the truth. You are not free until you're fully responsible for yourself. Not just your actions, but your mindset, your habits, your reactions, your healing, your goals, your time. Freedom isn't waking up late and avoiding pressure. It's waking up with clarity, knowing who you are, what you stand for, and what needs to be done, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man in the world, And yet he wrote about discipline, self-mastery, and accountability every single day. Why? Because true power doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from controlling yourself. Let me give you an example. You can eat whatever you want. That's a kind of freedom. But if you're always tired, sick, and out of energy, is that really freedom? You can say yes to every invitation, every demand, every distraction. But if you never have time for what matters to you, is that freedom, or is it slavery in disguise? Now imagine this instead. You wake up early, not because you have to, but because you choose to. You take care of your health, your thoughts, your priorities. You say no when you need to. You take full ownership of your growth. That's real freedom. It's not glamorous, it's not easy, but it's yours. As Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This is where radical responsibility becomes your superpower. Because once you stop waiting for permission, once you stop blaming your past, your parents, your boss, your ex, once you decide this is my life and I'm responsible for it, something unlocks inside you, a quiet strength, a calm focus, a fire that doesn't need applause, just progress. And that's the Stoic way. It's not cold, it's not rigid, it's clear, it's grounded, it's the path to inner freedom, even in an unpredictable world. So if you want to feel truly free, not temporarily, but deeply, stop chasing comfort, start choosing discipline, start choosing intention, start showing up like your life depends on it, because it does. Freedom isn't a feeling, it's a daily choice, and it begins the moment you say, "This is my responsibility." Conclusion: the Stoic path to inner freedom. Let's end with something that may surprise you. Real freedom doesn't always feel good. It doesn't always come wrapped in comfort, ease, or happiness. In fact, sometimes freedom feels like heartbreak, like walking away from people you care about, like sitting in silence when your mind screams for noise, like choosing the hard road when the easy one is right there, begging you to take it. But you know what? That's the price of truth. And truth, raw, honest, soul-shaking truth, is what Stoicism is all about. It's not about becoming emotionless. It's about seeing things clearly. No filters, no drama, no illusions. Because here's the truth the world won't tell you. You can have everything and still be trapped. Trapped in fear, trapped in ego, trapped in the chase for things that don't matter. But if you have clarity, discipline, and courage, even in the middle of chaos, even when life breaks you open, you are free. That's what the Stoics knew. That's what they lived. And that's what they invite us into. Not a life of denial, but a life of deep alignment. A life where you face what's real, you own your path, and you stop running from what scares you most, your own potential. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." That's not just a quote. That's a blueprint, a compass. Because the Stoic life is not for everyone. It's not popular. It's not always easy. But it is liberating. It's not the loudest voice in the room. It's the still one inside that says, "I can handle this. I will rise. I will grow." So if you've felt like you're drifting, like you've been searching for something deeper, like there's more to life than just reacting and chasing, this is your invitation to stop escaping, to stop pretending, to stop postponing your power, and start living deliberately, honestly, courageously, because inner freedom isn't given to you. It's earned, one decision at a time, one truth at a time, one brave step at a time. The Stoic path doesn't promise comfort. It promises clarity. It promises strength. And if you follow it long enough, it just might lead you back to your truest self.